Hello everyone, welcome to Painty Crafty. If you're new here, my name's Melanie. Welcome, welcome. And for my returning art and craft friends, I'm so glad you're taking another art break with me today. Today is Tuesday Draw Along, and we're going to be working on this cute little black cat inside of this fun little wagon boot, little witch boot. So much fun. We're going to be doing some wax resist, or I'm going to take some color crayons to do a wax resist, and then I'm going to be showing you the drawing steps, give you a rough idea, and then I'm going to be showing you some easy watercolor steps where you can paint this yourself. For those of you who might like to have a little help drawing, I do have a sketchbook membership, and that's where I have all of the line drawings for my YouTube tutorials. It's really reasonably priced. You can come on over there and check it out. I'd love to have more people come over and join me. I so appreciate you supporting my page or my channel that way. I really do appreciate you for doing that and becoming a member. So that's where you can come over and check out what I might have to offer over there. Plus, I do keep some free patterns there as well. I've been doing some prim projects, and if you're interested in doing those as well, you can come on over there and check out some of the free patterns that are inside of my Ko-fi shop. Well, let's go ahead and start with the drawing steps first. When you become a sketchbook member, this would be a line drawing that you could go ahead and print off, and then you can use a light box or put it on your window to go ahead and trace out your line drawing on your paper, and you'll be ready to paint. It does make a quick process of drawing. I know not everyone likes to draw, but I want to give you an idea of how you can draw some of these things as well. The more you practice, the better you're going to get. So let's go ahead and jump right on into the drawing steps. Well, to draw this little guy, let's see if I can't put this up here so you can kind of see it as the same time I'm drawing. What we want to do here is, if you would like to, whoops, I forgot to connect my line there. If you would like to, you can go ahead and draw a line down the middle just to get an idea of the size and the shape of what I'm drawing. So for this little guy, I ended up, if I can draw a simple little line down here just to give you an idea of where I was drawing things. You can see where I drew the top of my boot. There's my little line. So I'm going to start with my boot shape. Basically, we're going to draw a shoe with a little bit of a pointed toe on it. So to do the boot, I'm going to come on this side of my line, and I'm going to come down, and we're going to come, when we're going to go this way, we're going to be curling it up. So my toe is going to curl around here. Now, when you do the bottom of your boot, you just come straight across, make this kind of evenish, and then you're going to start swooping it up again. So we're making this little cute witch boot just like that. That's about all there is. Simple, pretty simple. I'm going to make a line here. This is going to be curved like a smile face. If I draw it that direction, it's going to look like it's curving around instead of being so flat. And we have that part on. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the heel. Now you can add whatever kind of heel you want, but I did a little bit of a curve here. So kind of like a little parenthesis mark. And then I'm going to come straight across like that for the bottom part of my heel. I'm going to come down. Now that would be completely sideways, like you didn't see any of the underneath, but to see some of the underneath, I'm going to draw this line at an angle, and then I'm going to come down. So you can add a little bit of fanciness if you would like to add a little tiny bit of perspective. Now we have that part down. Now we're going to do two wheels, and when you add your wheels on, all you want to do is make sure is that the bottom part of your wheels are kind of lined up basically for the front ones. So we would just come down here. They're going to be a little bigger than the bottom part of your boot because this is what's kind of like a little car or chariot that this little guy's riding in. So I want to look here. If you need to, do it in like a little line underneath so then you can tell where to draw your next line. So those are going to be the wheels, and they're just basically spokes. So put a little hub in the middle and then do some spokes off to the side, all the way around to create that look is what you're going to do. Now, if you would like to, you can add another one of your back wheels in. So the back wheels are going to be set back here, and they're going to be a little shorter. I don't have this one in. Let's go ahead and put my little centerpiece here and draw my lines. This will be my spoke like that. And then I would come here now and I would come right around. This is going to be behind. So that's the back part of that other tire back there. So that's how you would draw your wheels. If you'd like to have more than one, you're going to off center them and come to the back. But even if you just put two on, that's going to look fine too. Now this little guy's got a kitty cat that's riding inside. We have a little simple face that we're going to be doing with that as well. So I'm going to be putting the body in, and it's kind of like a U shape, upside down U shape, like that, a little bit of a hill. Now to do the face, I thought it looked cute to kind of put it at an angle so it's not just straight up and down. So you could draw a line sideways just to get your face lined up. So a little bit of a line, something like that, to be able to create your face on. And the face has a little bit of a chin to it, so it's going to come down on each side, and then it's going to have a little bit of a chin shape like that, so it's going to come down like that. Now let's put our nose here, so that's going to be in the middle then. So it's going to be an upside down triangle is what we're going to have for a nose. And then for the muzzle, it's going to go down to the right and down to the left is what we're going to do. Now there's lots of different ways to make eyes. I made kind of some of a cat eye, some of a human eye. I did just a normal little almond shape, and then there's a colorful side in here, and then there's going to be that black space here in the middle. All animal eyes are all very colorful, so there's no whites in here. That's going to be a color. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now the hat is the part that usually I struggle with and I have to figure out where are my lines to be able to make the witch hat. So if we look here, we're going to come out with this shape, and it's going to go across the forehead. So let's start with this shape here. So we're coming across our forehead. So we're going to start down here a little bit lower, and then we're going to kind of create this shape. You do want to get a little bit of a pointier shape there, so not so rounded. So it's going to have more of that witch hat feel. And then we're going to come right across the forehead. We're going to be doing that. Now we're going to come off to the side here and come up just a little bit. Now I'm running out of room on this one, but you can see how I did it over here. So I've cut just a little bit of space right there. And then just put your hat in off to the side. This little guy's ears is poking up there. So that looks kind of cute as well to have the little ears. The arms are just simple little shapes that come out, and then there's little tiny paws. This is very kind of a primitive, whimsical look, so nothing exact. And then there's another arm with a hand here as well. So it's going up. And then he is holding this group of characters, and that's what's kind of flying and making it look like it's carrying it off. So off to the side is a bat, and the way it makes it look like a bat is that there's a little pointy ears here that come down. Kind of like a butterfly if you drew a butterfly, but you're going to have these little pointy ears, and then the bat wings have these little loops that come off to the bat wing. That's what's going to make it look like a bat wing. Now this is kind of a pumpkin. It's a made-up character. Part bat, part pumpkin, part flying angel. I don't know. It's just a fun little made-up character. So the face is going to be a pumpkin. That's a bat wing. It's wearing a dress and just some simple little feet. You can add whatever you would like to be for your characters to be able to carry them off. But I thought it looked good to have a bat that was flying or pulling them. And then this is the jack-o'-lantern face that's going in the middle. So just look at your space to see what you might have room for a jack-o'-lantern space. Pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, as long as they're kind of a pumpkin shape, it's going to read that it's a jack-o'-lantern. So I'm going to start with a circle. I'm going to do a hump here, like an upside down U shape. Come out just a little bit so that it's not perfectly up and down, a little bit wider, and then come a little bit narrower. And then come up to the top, do the same thing, and arch off. Like that. Now I left some open spots so I could draw a jack-o'-lantern face. So that's how I left the spots open so it's not all the way closed. You most certainly could just make this a pumpkin and leave it as such. and create just a little pumpkin there too. So there's lots of different ways. I used a cup, the bottom part of a cup, to make my circle more roundish, but you could definitely freehand that as well. Well, that's just an idea of how I kind of, oh, I shouldn't forget, not forget about his cape. I drew this with a little bit of a curved line and then a little bit of a flip. It kind of looks like it's blowing that way. And then this line is drawn at an angle, so it's coming back in. So this one is a different color. I can show you here. So that's like the top part of my cape, and then that's the underneath. But that's just going to give it kind of a fun look in the end. We do have some buckles or some laces. You could add laces on there. You could add buckles, whatever you want to do yours in. So that's some beginning steps. And like I said, you can always go over to the Ko-fi page, check out the subscription. It's very reasonably priced, easy to join, and I love having more creative friends join me there. Well, that's it for the drawing part. Let's roll right on in to the watercolor part. For my color crayons, I'm going to start with those first. With color crayons, you always want to erase first before you were to use your color crayons. Whatever you would like to have lighter, erase it now. A gum eraser works really great to go over your images if you want to lighten your graphite or your pencil lines. It works great for that. It won't smear. But I'm going to come in with my color crayons now. A Crayola does make a neon set. They're super fun and they work great for this step. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a variety of colors. Now you'll notice in my one that I've already done, what the resist technique looks like is that the color crayons are going to kind of sit on top. Watercolor paper has a bump to it, so the color crayons never cover completely all of the surface. But I'm going to go around my items and not get my color crayon in there because I know I'm going to want to put some watercolor on those. So I'm going to try to stick to just doing the moon shape and try to avoid doing any of those other small parts. So let's go ahead and do that. And I might speed this up as you watch. If you have a color crayon sharpener, this would be a good time to sharpen your crayons, would be a nice idea. Okay, that should be a very colorful moon, I think, in the end. Now let's go ahead and start on the watercolor. Tonight I'm going to be using my Paul Rubens colors, but it doesn't really matter what you use. Just use what you have and create. But the main thing with watercolor is that you always want to start light and bright and work your way dark. So I'm going to be starting with a little bit of the black. I'm going to start with my black color. Now, even though it's black, it's still going to take a few layers to create the darkness that I want because we need to have some difference and contrast in our black. So if you notice here, this little arm is quite a bit darker than my front arm. I'm going to need to have a little bit darker underneath the hat for a shadow, but I'm going to need kind of a bright line here on my hat so I have a slight difference, and then underneath here would be darker. So it's going to take a few layers to do this, and I will start working on my black, and I'll let you watch as I do that, and I'll speed the camera up so you can see. It's basically just a color book style where I'm going to be coloring in my areas, letting them dry, add another layer. Watercolor always wants to flow where the paper is wet, so I want to make sure I'm staying in just the areas that I want to be black, and then my color will stay there. So let's start the black process. Now we need to give that kitty face a chance to dry so we can see where we are as far as the contrast, if we have enough between our hat and our face and the cat body. So we're going to give that a chance to dry and see where we are. I'm going to darken up my hat just a tiny bit underneath here by adding another layer, glazing over the color I already had there. You need to give your watercolor just a little bit of time to dry so that it doesn't completely rub out when you do it. I still want to have a little bit of highlight on the top of my hat, so I don't want that color to be too dark. I can always wipe off my brush, come in and lift a little bit of color right at the top to give it a little bit of a highlight. Start with a light bright color, this little bright color of green first, and then work my way darker with that. Now my dots, originally I had done a little bit of detail pen work over the top. So I painted my whole shoe first and then came back and did the polka dots. So I'm going to do the same thing this time. Now I did just get right into my pumpkin. See how that got into the pumpkin? What I can do is I can quickly wipe out my brush or wet it, get the color out, take some clear water, give it a squeeze, and then come in and tickle that area here and try to lift that color so it doesn't have to be a permanent green shade there inside of my pumpkin, since I'm going to be wanting it orange. So I can try to lift a little bit of that color so it doesn't go in there. And that kind of worked. That'll look, I just don't want to put any more green in here right now at that area because my pumpkin's wet. That green's going to want to follow right up in there. So I want to give that a little bit of time to dry before I were to add green to that area. While this is wet, I'm going to pick up that next layer of green. I'm going to do a little bit of wet on wet blending. So I'm going to come down another shade of green, and I'm going to come where I know it would be darker. So it's going to be darker here. It's going to be darker on my bottom, underneath this area as well. And because this color is still wet, the color should blend and create its own little shadow work without me not having to do a lot of extra work. Now, if your lines are too harsh after putting your color in there, rinse your brush out, take a little bit of clear water, and touch that area with just a tiny bit of clear water. This is not 100% cotton paper. This is the Canson watercolor brand. It's considered a student grade, so there's not as much cotton, but there is a size on here. You'll get a little bit of open time, but not like you would if you had 100% cotton. So we're just working with what we have. It's a great paper though to be able to practice and see how your colors move and how your color performs. So I'm just adding a little bit more water so my color will float and create that natural shadow on there. So you can see how my colors are floating on there. So if you end up with a line that is too harsh, take your brush and kind of go over that area with just a tiny bit of water, not a lot, or you'll end up with that where it's going to separate, your color is going to separate. That's blushing your color, then that will kind of like bloom out and that will create a different effect, which can be pretty too, but I'm not looking for that look on here. I'm just looking for that blending look, and that's how you would do it. Now I need to put a line here, darken this up underneath my face because I know that that's the brim of my hat. And I'm going to come around to the edges here. But I know I don't want that crisp line there, so I'm going to come in with my brush, rinse it out a little bit, tap it. It's got some clean water in there. I'm going to come to that line and then pull that color in and soften that line up. Oh my goodness, I really did change the form of this nose. It kind of looks like a peanut. Oh well, we'll see what it looks like in the end. I can always come in and do a little line work with my pen, but sometimes it's funny. With watercolor, you have to be okay with the fact that you're not really 100% controlling how the watercolor flows and what it's doing. So there's some positive things about that because you can get some really cool looks, but there's also a learning curve in figuring out, you know, what can you control, how can you control it, and putting it down. So, okay, so let's add a little bit more shadow underneath here. So I've got to have a difference here. So I'm going to be choosing to make this one more black underneath. I have a lot more pigment this time. With watercolor, the more pigment you have, the darker your paint will be. And with the more water you have in it, the lighter it's going to be. So I've got a nice line going there now. You can see a difference, but I do need to do something with these ears so that they are slightly different. Now, if your paint starts to drag or your brush starts to drag, add a little bit more water to your brush and see if you can't get your paint to move a little better. Let's add a little bit more color to this little guy here. I'm going to make his chest probably darker than what his face is. I'm going to make it darker underneath this arm because I want that arm to look like it's out front. So that's going to be the lightest arm. This will be the darker arm. We'll let that dry and see where we are. Like I said, even though you are painting black, you're still going to need a few layers in there. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and keep on painting, and I'll probably speed the process up now and just show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to be starting with my pumpkin and adding in a few more other details. Let's do a little detail work on my kitty eyes. So for the kitty eyes, I want to bump down a brush. So I'm going to be going onto this little pointier brush. And I'm going to make the inside of my eyes kind of this brown color. And then I will make the colorful part there a green, the same green that I'm doing down below, to add a more colorful eye to my kitty. Okay, so I have a little bit of a good contrast. I think I'm going to make this a little bit darker on my cat body and maybe make his face the lightest. So I'm going to add another layer here to my body. I'm trying to create a difference between my face and my body. Add a little bit more color to his tail. Lighten up the inside of my jack-o'-lantern. I'm going to come down with a little more bright orange here, just to add a little bit of light inside of him. Go ahead and do a little bit of background color this time, and this time I think I'm going to use some of the purple, but I'm also going to be using some of the Payne's Gray too, so as a night sky. So I'm going to be working some of my purple in and some of that Payne's Gray in, and I'm just using a bigger brush. My surface is dark or wet, dark. My surface is dry, and I'm going to be putting this paint on my background. Now I can go right over my moon because that has the wax crayon on there, and it's not going to stick wherever the crayon is. Okay. Now this is fairly fresh paint, so I don't want to spend too much time scrubbing next to my paint. It hasn't had very much time to dry, so I'm going to just scoot right along. Watercolor is not a permanent medium, so it can be scrubbed and lifted even when it's dry, depending on the pigments, depends how much it can be moved around. But you don't want to spend too much time right now scrubbing on it. So I'm going to be moving quickly. I like to change the direction of my brush so it's not going the same way. I like that whimsical look of having that irregular background to it. So I'm changing the direction of my brush, but I'm keeping on going. Now this one has more of a purple look. This has more of that darker night sky look. Both are equally cute, and I think I'm going to leave this one a little bit more purple and try it that way. And now I'm going to be using my micron pins to do this process. So I'm going to probably use a 03. I have a 05 to do the wheels in, and I will be doing a 01 for some of the smaller detail work. So this is where I can come in and do the smaller detail work. Now on this part here in particular, because it has the wax on it, I might have a little resist problem in some of the areas where the wax is. So I can just try to do what I can do. And where the wax is, it probably won't work as well. I'm going to put a little bit of dot pattern on my little gal as well and create just some line work. I like doing a little bit of irregular line work where it's not perfect. This time I might come around and do a little bit of scribbly bits around my moon because my background is a little different color than what my other one was. So I'm going to create a little bit more interest to my moon by coming around and adding a real sketchy look to it. So I kind of like that just darkens it up a little bit. Now I'm going to come in and try to do a little bit more line work on here. I'm going to do a little bow, I think. Like those are the strings, so those little guys are flying away and creating the movement. When I'm doing my line patterns, I like to do these little sketchy movements so nothing is exact. I'm not trying to follow exact, but I'm re-emphasizing or even going past what I actually painted or I did my pencil drawing. I can go past it. So I'm not keeping exact where my stars were, and I'm adding my line work in and just really creating a simple look like that. And again, if you like to use gel pens, this is where you could be adding in your gel pens. I like to double up on my lines too and add a little bit of interest that way. I'm going to be switching to a different size, so they're not all going to be this number one. But the number one is a very common size that I use often. Okay, let's do a little bit of drama on these eyes. So we're going to be adding some more dark lines and definitely not necessarily following them. So the insides are still white, so I'm going to come in now and I'm going to be adding that dark black and leaving a little bit of catch light, which means that there's a little bit of white inside of here. So once you add that dark and then keep that little bit of a catch light, all of a sudden now my kitty's coming to life. Now I'm probably going to be doing his whiskers, and the white Uniball pen is what I'm going to be using. That's got a great ink in it, and I might have to do his muzzle in it too. We'll see. Let's switch pen size, and let's come in with the bigger pen. So I'm going to be using a 5, which is a little bigger size of nib, and this is what I'm going to be outlining my wheels in. I want them to be a little heavier feeling, not so dainty for my lines. Okay, then I'm going to switch down to my number 3 pen, and this is what I'm going to use for the little scribble scrabbles inside of my polka dots here. So I wanted that green behind there, and then now I'm just kind of going in and making a little texture with my pen, some little hatch marking. Okay, now let's take that white pen, my Uniball pen. The Uniball Signo pen has a great ink. It's a great pen to have, and if you enjoy doing watercolor mixed media pieces, this is a great pen to have. You know, I forgot to add some black polka dots here. Just a little bit of interest. That way. Let's take this white and let's do the whiskers. Definitely do the whiskers in white for my black cat. Cute. You could make a little, choose one area, choose to do a little white highlight on his nose. Let's brighten up these little pumpkin eyes and definitely do his little tooth just like that. I'm going to come over and add just a little bit of highlights on these. A little bit of scribbly bits with the white there. And then I can come in and just do some random, like almost little stars or a little interest in my background by adding these little bit of little white in there. Now let me grab my glitter gel pens and let's do a little bit of glitter gel pen work on here. I think that would look great this time. I think I'm definitely going to use them on these stars and maybe a little bit on that hat band that I ended up doing. Oh, you know what? I need to strengthen his ears a little bit. Okay, so let's add a little bit of this color here. My orange did get a little flat looking because what happened is I didn't wash out my brush good enough. I had some black paint in there. So that's what made my orange a little flat looking. So I can bump that color up now, coming in with my gel pens and putting them on top of my color and add a little bit more interest that way. I don't know if that shows up so well, but add a little bit there. I'm gonna put some inside of his ears too. That's the area that I forgot to do, the hat and his ears. So I'm gonna come in and strengthen this ear shape because I kind of lost it. So I want to make sure I strengthen that up. Let's do across the brim of his hat. Do a little bit more on his face. And let's definitely do some sketch motion around this hat. Maybe we can pick up a little bit of that. Now, I also have a purple gel pen, and that might look great for the hat band to add a little bit. This is the area where I ended up coloring in with my black by accident. And I do have a green one. Let's add some bright, colorful green eyes, sparkly green eyes to this kitty. That would be really pretty. Okay, yeah, I like that look. I'll show you up close. Look at how pretty those eyes are. Hopefully that'll catches it just a little bit. I'm going to take some of this green now that I've used it on my cat, and I'm going to bring this down to my polka dots just to bring that color in some other place else because I don't have it anywhere else. So let's add it there. Just add a little bit more interest to these polka dots. I like doing that with my paintings by bringing in some of that color. Let's add a little bit here too. So let's add a few more detail works here. Coming around. Now, if you would like to share your work, you can come over to my Facebook page and share your work there. I love sharing other people's work because I think it encourages other people to try, and it doesn't have to look like mine to be good. And we all have different ideas of how we can make things. So I love sharing your work. All right, I think he's looking pretty good. You know, I do have a black one. You know, it's that might as well thing. You start and then you know, adding it on and developing it. And plus I didn't really do any line work down below on my pattern here. So this is a sparkly charcoal pen. So let's add a little bit of work with this sparkle pattern. Even on these little block areas, I do like to add a little bit of pattern on there because I didn't really spend that much time on painting them in. So I'm going to be making them a little bit fancier with either my gel pen or my marker. That looks good. That's a nice rich color. I believe I got these at Walmart is where I think these are. These are the King Art pens. I think that's where I got them, is at Walmart. Fun to have in your toolbox of art stuff. Art supplies, art stuff. Okay, there we go. I think it looks cute. I should probably sign this. Let's see. I do usually like to sign in pencil. If I can find a pencil that has lead in it, which seems to be a problem lately. And I'm going to sign my name here along my shoe. And there she is. Yes, cute. I think that's really cute. I think it's darling. They always turn out looking differently. It's always interesting to see, you know, one time it'll be one way and another time it'll be another way. So even the moons look different. I had a little bit more of a golden color here. I didn't have any of the neons in there. I used regular crayons. And this one was the neon with the pinks and all those other ones in there. So it's fun to do your drawings more than once. And if you are a sketchbook member, that makes that job so much easier because you can draw it once, trace it over, use your light box, put it up on your window, and make the drawing process quick and practice all of this painting part. It's a great way to be able to practice your painting. Well, that is it, my creative friends. Thanks for joining me today, and hopefully you'll come back and join me again. And next time you'll create right along with me.